to our culture?
In order for me to effectively answer that question, let's go back 700 years ago to the Yoruba tribe of Africa, where they celebrate life with dance. You know, everything was a dance celebration. And I think that dance movement has transposed itself to the Americas, you know, in the form of marching bands. But in the black college, you know, since dancing is a very important part of the African American tradition, it's also a part of marching band tradition. And that's what most people look forward to, you know. Now the other bands, I'll just put it like that, the other bands, you know, dancing is not a part of what they do. You know, and most people do not value those bands in the same way. Now, the culture of at the HBCU, the culture is different from some of the other schools. You know, so dancing is a very important part of that. People come to the games to do what?
Dance.
Halftime. They want to hear those, they want to see those bands. I don't care how good or bad they are. They want to see those bands. They want to see those girls out there on the field. They want to see some dancing going on. You know. They want to hear the music that they like, because the music relativity is very important, you know, in the HBCU tradition, as opposed to some other bands who play music of dead composers. You know, we don't do that. So that's a major difference in the culture of HBCUs. I don't care what college you go to. Halftime is it. They can hang out on the outside tailgate when that bell ring for halftime, everybody come inside to see the halftime show. When the band comes off, they're gone. That doesn't happen in some of the other universities. They come there to watch football. Yes.
Hi, my name is Ash Mack, representing Radio 1. I'm also a Norfolk State University graduate, marched in the band and everything. Something that you mentioned about composing and writing music beginning in 1975. How do you continue to have the authenticity, well, making sure that it's authentic when it comes to how music was in 1975 to 2023? Musicality has completely changed since then. So how do you continue to speak to your core demographic and also get the younger generations inclined to wanting to know more and actually knowing the songs behind what we play every day?
You know, music is my passion. First of all, I say music is my passion. When I first came to college, you know, as a freshman, I was a pre-med major. And I wanted to be a doctor and, you know, do all that surgery and stuff, you know, OGBYN, you know, that kind of stuff. But then I started realizing that most nights I was in the music building, in the practice room, practicing my trumpet. I was a trumpet major, practicing trumpet and piano. And that started my whole arranging career, you know, in the band. And my scoring techniques, you know, have, since the 1970s until now, is basically the same. The only difference is the style of music. You know, back in 1975, you know, you had groups like Earth, Wind and Fire, you had Ohio players, you had the Commodores, you had Michael Jackson 5, and that was a different kind of music. But now you fast forward all these years, and who are some of the stars now? Drake, Beyonce, who else? Bruno Mars, but Bruno Mars is different. Because he's old school. But it's just the style of music is different, you know, and we have to, my biggest challenge as an arranger is to find ways of making something out of nothing.
Yeah.
That's the main thing, and I think I've been very successful in doing that. Yes.
Hello, I'm Calvin Norman with BandTube High Definition. I also went to South Carolina State, so I'm a proud grad of that. What would you say? I know
somebody who was band director there.
Yes, you do. What would you say to the younger band directors that are coming out now, that are kind of getting into the mix? They're still trying to get their feet wet. You know, what kind of advice would you give to them?
Stick to it. You know, a lot of young band directors, you know, it's a generational thing where a lot of band directors, a lot of young students want instant gratification. But sometimes the careers take a long time to establish. If you talk to some of the more seasoned band directors, they will tell you that the first few years, you know, it was pretty hard for them, you know. But then as they mature and it becomes a part of their lives, it becomes a part of their passion. They stick with it. I know a lot of band directors in college who used to be band directors, but they went into other fields that would make them a lot more financially stable, for instance. But the only kind of advice I would give them is just to follow your passion. You know, if music is your passion, you have to stick with it. You know, that's the best advice that I can give any of the young guys. You know.
Thank you.
Everybody can't make it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Right. Mm-hmm.
My name is Mike Nicholas. I'm a graduate of Norfolk State University.
Morgan State?
Norfolk
State,
State
okay.
University.
Mm-hmm.
And I work here in Atlanta in local news. Just curious, now that we see a lot of attention, you know, on HBCUs, and I feel like it's going more international, more global, what do you feel like, should it be protected in a way? Like our culture, I think it's starting to like bleed into other universities. I saw a post not too long ago. I don't know what the college was, but they were kind of like mirroring some of the things that we were doing, but it was like a PWI, you know what I'm saying? Is that a problem? Is that something we should look forward to, or is it something that we need to kind of protect?
It's something that I don't think we should be protective about that, but when you start examining history, let's go all the way back to the turn of the century, 19th century, when jazz was first started, and the first jazz recording was made in 1917, and it was really created by African Americans, right? But then it started to become the most popular music. That's America's greatest art form, historically speaking. What happened? What happened to jazz during that particular period is that the white people started to embrace jazz as the American art form, and it was like a lot of white young people started dancing to the music and became America's #1 music. The same thing is happening now. The same thing is happening now. Our band went to, we played the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill, and the band director wanted to do a dance routine. The band director at Chapel Hill wanted to do a dance routine, so we sent our choreographer up to Chapel Hill a few days earlier to teach their band a dance routine, and we all did it together. The FAMU and the University of North Carolina. It was a big hit for the audience. But it's just a cultural thing where, when we, some of those schools, really would love to do things that's relevant to the audience. And dancing, and the reason why, every time we go to a PWI and perform, and the artist is there, we played the University of Florida. This is just an example. We played the University of Florida, and the Marching 100 did a halftime show at their game, right? Nobody left during halftime. And the university said they lost a lot of money to concessions because people did not leave their seats. They wanted to see the Florida A&M band. They wanted to see us go out there and do our thing. And then it was so funny that the band director, he's a wonderful guy, He embraced that. Usually when a visiting band comes to a university, the visiting band plays first. Then the home band bring it home, right? But in that particular situation, they went on first, and we were the star. When we came on second, nobody in the stands moved. They stayed for the entire halftime show. That's how much influence that HBCUs have had on halftime shows, and this is just the beginning. You got schools like Ohio State. You got schools like University of Southern California. They have always incorporated the dance as a part of what they do, and now it's becoming. And that's a wonderful thing. Our culture is getting to be integrated in a way that hasn't been before. And that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing at all.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's worth gatekeeping when it comes to band culture, especially HBCU culture? I think what Mike is talking about is more so the fact of when we have the fine line of appreciation versus appropriation. And how do we make sure that we get the credit that we deserve when it comes to HBCU bands?
We just have to be on the forefront of promoting ourselves. We can't allow other people to promote us. We have to promote ourselves and make sure that we are benefiting from our hard work that we've done for all these years. That's the main thing. I can go to the music conventions, and I was telling a friend of mine that in these music conventions that we go to with all the music educators, it's very important that the African American people, take the leadership in promoting our culture. You know, rather than the other way. The worst thing that ever happened if some of the other bands start to take credit
Right.
for dancing in the HBCU culture. Say, well, we did it. And the same thing happened in jazz. You know, the original Dixieland Jazz Band was the first group to ever record jazz, right? Well, they claimed that they were the originators of jazz, and say African Americans had nothing to do with it. We just don't want that. We just don't want that part of the history to repeat itself. If that answers your question.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So we have to really be proactive in terms of promoting what we do, in terms of publishing, in terms of making what we do available, and having the appropriate credit given to African Americans. I would love to see most bands. I would love to see the college band be the centerpiece of athletic events. That's what I personally. Because I go to some of the games. I love football. I love basketball. My favorite sport is tennis, of course. I'm a tennis player. They don't have bands at tennis events, but I sit up there, and I'm a band fanatic. I love bands, and when I see these bands perform, I say, "Oh man, let me go get me a beer," So I don't want that to happen. I'd like for all the bands to have that type of excitement that the HBCU bands have in halftime shows. Mm-hmm.
I'd like to jump back to your arranging for a second.
Okay.
'Cause I've done a little bit of arranging at the high school and the collegiate level, also when I marched at Northwood. And I have a good number of arrangements that I've that didn't make it out of my laptop, make it out of my own personal possession. So I would like to know, is there any arrangement that you've done that maybe we've never heard that you would love for the world to hear?
Yes, there are arrangements. Let me give you an example. For 11 years, I was the only chief arranger for the McDonald's All-American High School Band for 11 years. And there are a lot of music. That band was made up of the best two high school students from every state, including Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico. So it's a 104-piece band, right, of some of the best musicians on the planet, best high school musicians on the planet. And I arranged for them. And we did a lot of music for Macy's Day Parade, for Macy's Parade. We did Chicago Christmas Parade. We did Fiesta Bowl Parade, and we did Rose Bowl Parade. And I wrote a large body of music for that organization, right? But some of those arrangements have only been played by the McDonald's.
How phenomenal of a musician that you are. You actually were the faculty advisor for Mahogany Dance Theater, to which I was rehearsal director for. So we have...
That's where I know you from. Yeah, okay. What's your name again?
Nadira,
that's right.
Yes, of course. So I'm just learning a lot about a lot of the things that you've done in your career. And first of all, I'm honored that you chose to be a professor at FAMU, and we have someone such a diamond like you are. But being that you have so much history in music, and you have this legendary career and training and all those sort of things, based on what you see, what HBCU Marching Band has come from and where it is today, what are some suggestions that you would have for the community to see it go to the next level, or some things that you would like maybe to see done a little bit differently so that we can continue to keep HBCU Marching Band fresh, new, exciting, and not just kind of... We've done a lot of other things before. Dr. Foster set that standard so many years ago, and we know that marching bands are doing other things now. So what are some things that you would like to see kind of going on into the future?
I think the number one thing I would like to see is for if all the administration of all the HBCUs take band very seriously. I want them to recognize that the marching bands at these universities are major brands of the university. Florida A&M Marching 100 is a brand of the FAMU. BCU is a brand of Bethune-Cookman. Ohio State band is a brand of Ohio State. And I think if those universities will take that into consideration, then those bands can get the kind of support that they need to take them to the next level. It's unfortunate that a lot of the HBCU bands just do not have the funds to hire staff or appropriate for staffing purposes. They don't have band directors, assistant band directors, and stuff like that. FAMU has always enjoyed a very full band staff, and we've always had tremendous support from our administration, and it's continuing to support our band. But if we can get that in all of the universities, especially HBCUs, it would be phenomenal. You will see a really big difference in the quality of their band because they would no longer be limited by the funding, in terms of travel and uniforms and instruments, and to offer scholarships for students, go on and on and on. That starts at the top. You can have a great band, but if you don't have that administrative support, then the band is never going to be heard, it's never going to be seen. So we've been very fortunate at Florida A&M, and some of the other schools are very fortunate as well. But we've been very fortunate to have an administration who's consistent over the last number of years. Dr. Foster got there in 1946. He retired in 1998, and then Dr. Julia White took over in 1998, and now it's Dr. Shelby Chipman. And all those years, the university have always supported the band program. And through all kind of adversity we've had, the one thing that they did not do is waver the support of the Marching 100. And if most universities would take that approach, you will see a really big difference in all the HBCU bands.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
What is something that you still have put on your to-do list, or something that you're actively working towards and on?
Boy, that's a good question. I'm always striving for perfection. There hasn't been an arrangement that I've done that I really like. I'm just waiting on that perfect arrangement that I'm satisfied with. Because as soon as I hear my arrangement, I say, oh, man, I wish I could have done it differently. I think that when I am approaching retirement, I think publishing is what I'm really passionate about. So to make my years of arranging, make that available to all the schools in the country. That's one of the goals that I have. I've been pretty closed-minded, but that I wouldn't say closed-minded. I've been pretty proprietary, I should say. The FAMU band, I write for FAMU,
right.
And so and I don't necessarily want all the other HBCUs to have all the FAMU's music. But by publishing, by having it formally published, then it'll be available to everyone. I think that's a goal of mine, definitely. I have almost 50 years worth of music that I can publish. It's a lot of arrangements, and I've already set the groundwork for that. So stay tuned.
Yeah, congratulations. As long as we get a chance to, see
arrangements
firsthand.
by collection of Lindsey Sarjeant. I mean, Donovan Wells, for instance, he always tells me, he said, Lindsey, can I play one of your concert arrangements? I said, yeah, which one? He'll start naming about 3 or 4 of them that he wants, So I said, okay, well, that's cool. I said, just don't play it when we play you. He and I have a very, very good relationship, just like all the other band directors. It was so funny because I do know that for 16 years, Tom, I've been doing the mass band music, and a lot of the arrangers, they look forward to getting my arrangements. I mean, they look forward to it, and they use it as a basis for their arrangements. I hear a lot of things in their arrangement that I know they got it from me. So it doesn't bother me. I'm very honored and very humbled by that. But I think that I have set a certain standard for bands, and most of these bands are trying to reach that standard. I was very fortunate to be able to work under Dr. Foster. Dr. Foster hired me when I was 22 years old, and I didn't know what I was doing, but he saw in me. He said that when I hired, he published a book, and he said in that book that when Lindsey Sarjeant started arranging for FAMU, the sound of the band, that was the sound that I've always been looking for. And it took him about 20 years for me to, I started working in 75, he started in 1946. But when I started arranging, he said, this is how I've always wanted my band to sound. So I was very humbled that he saw that in me. He saw that young Lindsey Sarjeant. He saw that potential that I had in terms of writing, and he nurtured that, and I really appreciate that.
How you doing? About your band, Lloyd? Get a lot of pressures today. We're going to get one in real quick. So obviously you're up there because you're a well-recognized leader. And I think there's a lot of core values that transcend lines and barriers in a lot of different aspects of leadership. So as an entrepreneur like myself, where are some core values that you can get you live by that will help you make the impact on the band world that you want to without?
I think the biggest thing is content of your character. You know, that's the only one thing that you have and nobody can take away from you. And when you have a good personal character, that transposes itself to your work ethic, and your work ethic dictates everything. You know, I believe do unto others that you want them to do, do unto others that you want them done to you. That's my philosophy. You know, I will give you something before I take anything away from you, and that's been my success. You know, people say I'm very humble. You know, my faith, my faith in God is very, very strong. I believe in doing things all the right way, and I'm patient. And those things have worked very well for me in my career. You know, I know a lot of people who write music, they become very vain, they become very cocky, they become very hard to work with. You know, I would rather deal with somebody of lesser talent that has a great personal character that I can work with. You know, and that's the way I am. You know, I'm not a diva. I don't act like one. You know, people say, "Man, Sargeant, you need to be doing X, Y, and Z." I say, "No, I'm good right where I am." You know, I don't need to be doing all of that. I don't need to be doing the most, as people say. You know? Like some people in my position do the most, and you can't stand it because they're so cocky. You know, they have like, they're God's greatest gift. I have been truly blessed in my life, beyond the word blessed, in many, many different ways. Not only blessed am I blessed musically, but I'm blessed with great health. I don't have any serious health issues. That's by the grace of God. And I put all my trust in. People ask me sometimes, "Well, Sargeant, how do you write this? Where did you get that from?" I say, "I don't know. It just came. It came. That's my blessing. That I'm receiving the art of creativity. And as a jazz pianist and as an arranger, they all intertwined. You're welcome.
What do you think the work ethic is like with this, the younger generation? I come from a generation, we had to walk to school and stuff like that. We work really hard. Like, there's always this can the next generation keep up the same kind of work ethic that the generations before them?
The kids these days, I want to say, are spoiled to a lot of degree. I see a lot of kids feel like they are entitled. They don't know what hard work is. And remember, I came up during a generation there was no such thing as a computer, no such thing as internet. What we did on our spare time, we practiced. With the band rehearsal, we played outside. But these kids now, even my kids, man, I call them the thumb generation. Y'all know what I'm talking about? Thumb, joysticks, scrolling on the phones with thumbs, and they don't play outside anymore. They're inside kids. That's just a generalization, but it's just we're just living in different times now. There are a lot more options for our young kids than ever before. I just wish I had the options that they had when I was 18 years old. I wish I could have chosen any college that I wanted to go to. But during that time, a lot of colleges were not admitting black students. So these students have no. In fact, in my class, I teach a class. I teach jazz. I teach one class on campus. It's jazz history. And I asked a question the other day. I have about 51 people in my class. And I asked the question, how many of you have experienced personal racism in their lives? And out of 51 students, maybe 3 or 4 raised their hand. But that's very telling to me. That was very telling. Now, if you had asked the same class when I was 18 years old, everybody would have raised their hand that they've experienced some form of racism. So it's a whole different environment now. And the young kids are doing very, very well. a lot of young rappers are really doing some big things. You know, they're making a name for themselves. And what I enjoy about it is that they are extremely talented. And they come in with some very good ideas. They're very creative, and I love that. I love, you know, the way the rap music is now, for an example, is the same way people looked at bebop jazz of the 1940s. They looked at, oh, that's too much art doing the most, and da. So people say the same thing about rap music, but what they don't realize is that the creativity, the spontaneous creativity that's in improvisation, jazz improvisation, is the same spontaneous creativity in a lot of rappers. So when you start making that comparison, you say it's basically the same. You know, we're just living in different times. You know? Mm-hmm. Yes.
How you doing? Face Off Media and Entertainment. My name is Bob Austin, graduate of North Carolina A&T, past head drum engine, blue and gold marching machine.
Okay.
One thing I appreciate about everything you said was, I mean, just from hearing your humility that you had in saying how you approach everything that you do, but also your confidence in knowing that you're good, knowing that the facts that people follow you and take after you. Actually, Mac asked you about you know, your goals and things like that. You talked about that perfect arrangement. Do you think that you'll know that sound when you hear it? Do you think that you'll know that's the perfect arrangement, or is that just a sign of your greatness that you're just continuing to strive to do?
I think that's what drives me. It drives me to do better. I always want to do something better. You know, I asked people one time to say, what is your what's your favorite arrangement that I've done at the university? They start naming all these stuff, and I was like, wow, I didn't like none of those. But they liked it, you know, so, you know, the beauty is always in the eye of the beholder. But for me, I give me a second chance to do an arrangement, I'll do it differently.
Do you ever go back and do it, redo it?
Oh yes, but I don't say if we do a piece this year and we decide to do the same piece 5 years from now, it's not going to be the same. There's something about that arrangement that's going to be different. I'll take what I don't like, change it, rescore it. You know, that's the beauty of what I do. I'm able to do that. But if you ask me my favorite piece, I really don't have any favorite pieces that I've done. I've done thousands of pieces from bands across the country. I can't say if one is over the other one. You know, I like them all, but some of them I say, man, that sucks, you know. But you know, but if you like it, you like it. But, yes.
About 2 years ago during the pandemic, you participated in the Arranger Versus series that Eddie was doing with People Under 50, and you had that famous battle with Paul Adams.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, are there any other arrangements that you would like to venture into doing something like that? Are there any other arrangements out there that you would like to have an opportunity to do one of those verses?
Any of them. Any of them. The reason why Paul Adams was I was excited about Paul Adams because he's one of the reasons I got into arranging in the first place. When I was a freshman at FAMU, he did an arrangement of this tune called You Got Me Going in Circles. He did it for Southern University. And I said, I want to be able to do that. And so Paul, when I finally met Paul, you know, he and I became friends, and we've been friends for all these years. You know, so he was my mentor. I wanted to arrange just like Paul Adams. You know, I heard what he was doing at Southern University, and then I heard what he was doing at Norfolk State. I said, man, he's the GOAT in my book.
That's how great it's
Yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm. Paul Adams, he's the guy, you know, and to be on that program with him, man, it was really, really nice, you know. And you know, we've done a lot of musical things together, but I've always admired his arrangements, and he's always been. I've always been a fan of his, and he's always been a fan of me. So that's always good. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Are you up? I just want to have one last question. You talked about how, like, your grandchildren and stuff like that, they're like the thumb generation and things of that nature. I know there's a lot of arrangers that are on the rise right now who've never had the opportunity to, like, work with you or learn under your tutelage. So with the way technology is going right now, do you think that we can ever see a course from you where you are helping other arrangers who want to achieve your level or who didn't necessarily go to FAMU, so they couldn't take your class, maybe went to another university, they want to tap into the great resource that you are? Do you foresee yourself ever doing something?
I talk with a lot of them. I'm always available, and they sometimes I'll do Zoom sessions with them. They'll send me their arrangements. They want me to critique their arrangements, and I will call them and we'll talk about them in real time. I've been doing that for years. You know, I don't want to call any specific names of these people, but there are a lot of students at other universities who get in touch with me and ask me to send them material on arranging, send them my voice settings, and send them information that will help them. Then they'll send me their arrangements and ask me if I would critique them, and I'll send it back. And we'll talk about it. So I do a lot of that even now. I'm teaching arranging this semester at Florida A&M, and I have 12 talented students who are going to be major arrangers at one time. And I go to class every Monday and Wednesday looking forward to passing on my information, to them, passing on all of my technical information, scoring techniques, the reason why I do certain things, why I do certain things, things that they should do. But I do the same thing for other HBCU arrangers. I do the same thing. I let them, they ask me what I think about this. And even today, I'm sure a lot of them are going to come to me and say, what do you think? I heard Tennessee State's band last night, and I went over to the arranger and complimented him on the arrangement that he did. He was very, very happy that I complimented him. Because a lot of arrangers will not compliment each other. But I always see the good potential in all of them. And all of them have done a very fantastic job in arranging. I'm always available, if they ask. Always.
Is there a band that you're actually looking forward to seeing performing today?
All of them.
No, like specifically. Like specifically, is there a band that you're really intrigued and excited to see perform?
Just one.
What band is that?
BCU. Yeah, BCU, I think, Donovan Wells is a good friend of mine, and he's always had a very, Donovan Wells told me something one time that was very interesting. He said, we are who we are because of FAMU. He said, if it hadn't been for FAMU, and he's always admired Dr. Fawcett, admired what we do. He's always patterned himself after things that we have done, and he's done a fantastic job at BCU in terms of basic musicianship, show design, execution, and I love seeing that. I really do. But then I can say the same thing about other bands as well. Norfolk State, North Carolina A&T, great bands, great percussion sections. I can just go on and on and on about Tennessee State. I just enjoy all the bands. I'm a band head, actually. So I love all of the bands. And it's kind of hard to judge one band from another because they all bring something different to the table. All bands are not the same. All bands don't sound the same. But there are certain fundamental things that I look for, in terms of musicianship, marching techniques, fundamental drill design, and some of these bands are very, very good at that, and so I like that. That's an unfair question. Ask me what.
Thank you.
Put me on the spot. But I like them all, though. South Carolina State. I'm very partial towards South Carolina State. My brother was there for a long time. He retired in 2004. So I've always been a fan of South Carolina State, because of that. And Alabama State has always been one of my favorites. And I can just say some good things about all the bands. But the thing I like about this HBCU Allstar Band Battle of Bands is that it is not a competition. And some people want to say, but who won the battle? Well, the battle is only in the title, but we don't compete. Every band it's like a showcase. Every band is bringing their A game to the field, whatever that is. And so you can't say that Bethune-Cookman is better than Norfolk State or vice versa. You can't say that Tennessee State is better than Alabama. No, it all depends on, The beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But the thing that I enjoy is that nobody's competing. It's not a competition. Now, if we play a university, if we play Bethune-Cookman, that's going to be some competition going on. It's going to be, we're going to try to outdo you. But here, it's not that. It's not that kind of vibe at all. And the thing that I've enjoyed about this battle of bands is that bands get a chance to be in partnership with other bands. They meet students in other bands, and sometimes they go to high school with some of these kids in other bands. So it's not a competition. So there's no rivalry. Don't break my line type thing. It's not like that here. And I love that. So everybody's on the same playing field. It's equal playing field. If you do a good show, you do a good show. If you do a terrible show, you do a terrible show. But it's what you bring to the table that's so important. There are no judges. Audience is the judge in their own minds. Whatever you like, that's what you like. So the beauty is in the eye of the beholder, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes.
I'd like to give you the opportunity now, because I think anybody that specializes in anything always has some sort of gripe about what they do that the rest of the world might not see. So, for example, me being a high school teacher, I know some of the hardships of teaching at a public school level that most people outside of that career path might not know about. So is there anything about college band, HBCU bands, anything that you think the world needs to know that will make the experience better for the universities, for the students, for the band staffs, anything like that?
I just think, I talked about this earlier, that a lot of these bands would have a completely different experience if they had the 100% backing of the administration, from the president, vice president, provost, deans. If everybody's on the same page to support financially these bands, you would see a whole different product. And I just think that there are a lot of things that goes on behind the scenes. I'm a band director still. I still write music for FAMU, but I'm also the music department chairman. So I see a lot of these administrative things that goes on. And I say to myself, if an administration is not supporting band programs the way they should, then something is wrong. The band is not going to be as strong as it really could be. They can't represent the universities the way they could. So that's always an issue for HBCUs. And I see a lot of that behind the scenes. And I know that for some universities, if they had the resources, like even if the alumni of those schools give to the band program, it can make a big difference. But alumni don't support band programs the way they should. So it's always about the money. It's always about the support. Even if it's not financial, it's moral. Sometimes these schools think that the band is just an auxiliary to play the football games. Sometimes these bands, if you talk to some of the band directors, they can really go into detail in terms of what they're not getting. I can't talk about that at FAMU because FAMU, the university really support the band program tremendously. We get pretty much what we need. And some of the other universities too, but there are a lot of them, especially the smaller schools, they just don't have that financial support. If they had it, it would be completely different in terms of how they perform and how they move their school forward. If you talk, they always say if we had this or if we had that, it would make a difference. If they had money for uniforms, they had money for better instruments, it would really make a difference. That's just an example. There are other things as well, but that's the major factor in all of it. Yes?
Alvin Lewis with Drum Major Pros. As a student of your brother's band at South Carolina State, I'd like to have you discuss your and his impact on the HBCU culture world. I played many of your arrangements on the bands, even sitting in the band room at South Carolina State. And then, of course, your brother is just as notable. They played numerous amount of business arrangements. But it seems like you guys are kind of timeless. Even at this point, I know you've done a lot, but you're still able to sit up there and do this. So could you kind of just explain or expound on the journey thus far, especially for the two of you coming from the same household and conquering different, university bands and again, being pioneers thus far?
We grew up together, right? Ron's my older brother. He's older by a few years, a couple of years. And we learned how to arrange from the same guy, a guy named Richard Powers, who was an arranger at FAMU. Ronald, when he first started, he wasn't arranging. I used to send him my arrangements. And I send him and let him alter those arrangements to fit his band. And then, by the pure nature that he was at South Carolina State, and I was at FAMU, people, the public, always had us as rivals, but we were never rivals. When we go home, we go to family events, the one thing that we do not talk about is band. We don't talk about that. That stuff is off limits. But I've always supported Ronald at South Carolina State. He's always supported me at FAMU, so we always collaborated on arrangements. Sometimes I'll call him up and say, man, have you done this arrangement? He said, no, I'm gonna send it to you. And I'll send him my arrangement. He'd take that arrangement, alter it for his band, and it becomes his. And we did each other like that for years. And when he passed away in July of 2012, I lost a part of me because he was my mentor. He was my go-to person. When I wanted to somebody to critique my arrangements, I'll send it to Ronald. And so I lost that when he passed away in 2012, almost 10 years ago.